theme diaspora for socio-economic development. And that is why we have guests that are in the midst of this, who are at the helm of organizing this event. We have Mr. Bagonza Muhammed, Senior Presidential Advisor, Diaspora Affairs State House, and we'll be expecting others. We have Ms. Amida Chidige, Special Presidential Advisor, ICT. The rest will be joining us. If Miriam, if you see anybody who comes in, please do alert me, and we can proceed. So I want to begin with you, Mr. Bagonza. Could you simply highlight what this is all about?
I greeted everyone. Sorry, I'm traveling to Mbale. I don't know whether my network will be clear, but will be on and off, no problem. I'm also reaching the apology of the PS Minister of Foreign Affairs. He's not able to be with us today. He got an urgent meeting in Nairobi, and he cannot have time to address you on Zoom. But definitely will meet him. Those who will be in Kampala in December, this December from 18th to 21st, they will be able to interact with him directly at Munyonyo during our convention. As I've been introduced, I'm a Senior Presidential Advisor on Diaspora Affairs in the State House, a new unit which was formed early last year by His Excellency the President, where I wanted to deal directly and understand and sort out the challenges the diasporas face. Because during his visits in a number of countries, he has traveled in the US, in the UK, in Dubai, and the last one was South Africa. There have been a lot of complaints about services in diaspora services in Uganda. And those challenges have been addressed a number of years. People have been talking about them in a number of years, but nobody was paying attention to them. So that's why I decided to create my office so that I can be able to get day-to-day work to handle the diaspora activities and doing a coordinative role.
Mr. Bagonza, could you kindly introduce the team you're with today? Sorry to cut you short. Kindly introduce the team you're with today. The team.
Yeah, the team we are expecting, Madam Amida, will be coming in shortly. Madam Amida is the introduced the in-charge of ICT, Senior Presidential Advisor on ICT in the State House. And she needs to be involved on technology and diaspora, which she will talk about when she comes, and she will give big highlights. So that is the one I'm expecting from our office. And then I said PS is not able. So, like we told you, or all of you are aware, that the government of Uganda, by the lead of Minister of Foreign Affairs, has organized a diaspora convention called the inaugural Minister of Foreign Affairs Diaspora Convention in Munyonyo, and it will be held on 18th and 19th, and then we shall have, after the 2 days conference, we shall visit more parts of the country, depending on the individual's interest. That is in terms of tourism, in terms of infrastructure development, in energy, oil and gas, and some industrial sites to see how the government is ready and set to develop the industries in Uganda. So the Munyonyo event is mainly between a number of stakeholders, the diaspora itself, and the other stakeholders in terms of service provision. When I talk of service provision, I mean about the documentation of passports, national IDs, and the dual citizenship. Minister of Internal Affairs will be in position to discuss that and then also respond on the challenges. Because of course we are aware because we are in a very big distance, this comes along with challenges which Minister of Internal Affairs will have to address. And then we are expecting to discuss about the economy. The lead person is Minister of Finance. That is the Permanent Secretary, Minister of Finance, Mr. Govi, will be available to discuss how the diaspora can be involved into socio-economic transformation of the country. We have revenue authority. Of course, we have a lot of challenges in taxes as diaspora. So want revenue to talk about this. And then we are expecting Bank of Uganda to discuss about the diaspora bonds, how we can create a strong diaspora bonds. Right now, we are aware that the Kenyans have moved very fast. For them, they have even created a diaspora circle, which is going to deal with the infrastructure development in Nairobi. They will no longer now go to borrow money in the World Bank or IMF. Diaspora have decided, the Kenyan, to raise money among themselves so that they can be able to build their own infrastructure. And there are also those live examples they have managed to develop in Nairobi in terms of the power dam, etc. So we chose, during this convention, we chose as we see in helping or working closely with diaspora. The investment authority, they will also be available because we think diaspora can now invest back home, but they need to have a very smooth way on how to invest, because usually the bureaucracies of government, we are all aware, they are always very hard for people to get home and then settle into business. But we want to see how government and the investment authority is helping the diaspora on the investment portfolios. So land sector is very critical, and we have identified the Ministry of Lands to come and talk about these prevailing challenges of stealing land, diaspora losing land, because recently I'm receiving a number of calls from our colleagues in diaspora, because some of them, when they take a long time to construct in their projects or their acquired land, you find either some neighbors or some other people, they come to put structures on that land. So we want to see how Ministry of Land can now come into force to help the diaspora. So really, we have a very good convention with a big participation, because many people have registered around so far. Of now, we are around 300 have registered to attend. So we think we shall have a very good interaction between our diaspora, and we discuss how we shall address these challenges. Of course, after that, the last day of the 20th and 21st, people will go to see their countries. what we have done in the oil and gas sector, the infrastructure there, the Karuma energy project, because for us to invest, we need to have a cheap electricity. Because if our power is too expensive, we cannot manage investment. So that's why we are taking you to see the areas so that we are able to understand and come on board to invest in Uganda. Because they are our ambassadors, wherever they are, and they are the very first people to talk about Uganda and also understand the country. So we shall visit some of those projects we have done, and then some group will go to Karuma, to Maxon Falls, to see the flora and fauna, our beautiful animals there, so that you can able to talk about tourism, which you understand. Then Kapeka Industrial Park, because some of them have been here out of Uganda for some time. Sometimes they don't know that many of these projects are ongoing, and we would like you to see what we are doing in Kapeka. The industries and also government is now developing more industrial parks up country in a number of districts, Nakasongola, Port Poto, Mbale, and elsewhere. So this will give you a general overview for those who have not been here for a long time to understand that there is some work being done, and also government to tell you how they are supportive on investment of the diaspora. So this is mainly part of the program. And of course, diaspora, for those who have already invested in Uganda, they are going to showcase to tell us exactly what they have done. And this, they have chosen a number of our colleagues from different countries in the US, Canada, Europe, South Africa, Africa, and East Africa. So these people will have almost a whole day to share with us how they have managed to succeed in this entrepreneurial development they have done in the country. So really it is bringing closer the diaspora people to their country. That's why we are calling it homecoming, welcoming you back to Uganda, and also to know that you have your brothers and sisters you left here and they are with you. And this will be every year we shall have this. This will be an annual event every year, and I know it will grow and will keep changing. If someone has presented this year, the other diaspora, another diaspora person will address next year like that. So we may not have time to have everyone on board. That's why they are choosing maybe 2 members from each country. But there will also be a general discussion for people to give in the ideas depending on different sessions we are going to have, so that a number of challenges can be addressed. And then we have the final document, what we'll agree, and that will form part of policy, and government will move on it. Otherwise, thank you for listening to me. I'm just ready if you have a number of questions to ask. I'm here to respond.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Bagonza, for that introduction and the preamble into this event. But we're looking forward to, I must add, it is long overdue. Long overdue. We've been having a number of conversations on this particular show about how the diaspora has been left out, how it feels there's a lot of issues to be addressed, and well, never too late. You're here. Let's see what this diverse community that we have today will share with you. We have people from the US, people from the UK, and elsewhere as they will be joining us. So, ladies and gentlemen, please put your hand up if you want to comment, to question, But I'm going to first ask our usual panelists, and I'll start with Joy Kyakwita, to kindly introduce yourself when you get to speak. Introduce yourself and tell us what you do, where you're based, and give us your question or comment on what's happening and what you want to see at the diaspora convention. Joy?
Thank you very much, Lynn. Good morning, everyone. It is morning here. It's just 11:30 here in London. My name is Joy Kyakwita. I am a UK immigration lawyer, and I'm also a senior social worker based in London. So I'm so glad to be here, and I love everything that Mr. Bagonza has been saying, because I think as members, as Ugandans in the diaspora, these are the kind of things we really want to be listening to and feel that we are also involved in what is going on back home. Like we always say, we never stop being Ugandans. I've been living here, I'm going to make 20 years in London, but I come home every year. I call Uganda home. And so it is, and we invest to home, we send money, we are paying fees, paying for medical bills back home. So you see, we are part of it, we are part of the system back home, Mr. Bagonza. And I'm so happy that, you recognize that. The president has told us several times here that the diaspora plays a big role in the development of Uganda. And when we get things like this, it means a lot. Just last week, we launched what we call the UK Ugandan Lawyers Association. You see, again, we are working with the Uganda Law Society. So these are the kind of things we want. And so just to say, as a way of introducing myself, that I'm so happy to hear all these things. I'm going to be coming back to share more about what us, at least the Ugandans living in the UK, expect or would love to see happen as valued members of the Ugandans in the diaspora. Thank you very much, Lynn.
Thank you, Joy. A kind reminder, we are live on YouTube. We're also live on X, which was formerly Twitter. So feel free to reach out to us. The community that we have today is really wide. So this is where we put forward all our issues. The usual team from the Uganda-Diaspora Civic space. We've got a lot of issues. So this is the time you have Bagonza with us today. Let's share with him. I see Gordon Morangila in the UAE. We're glad to see you. We're glad to have you. So kindly put up your hand if you want to ask something and if you want to comment. But if I could ask Albert Bakasara. Albert is a usual host, or rather guest here at the show. Albert, we have had these conversations before about having a community that brings together Uganda, especially when they come back home during this period. We know there's another event that usually happens. Now, I will ask Bagonza, after you speak, how different is it from that other event?
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you, fellow moderators and our guests, and thank you for the kind words, Mr. Bagonza. Lynn, as you said, my name is Albert Bakasara. I'm a civil servant in the US. I actually prefer to be called elder, and that's it. I don't like titles, and plus we're really not allowed to advertise the agencies or departments we work for, especially when we're not officially representing them. So I'll leave that at that. I really, Lynn, this is good because most of the times, and I apologize for the noise in the background. I'm in traffic, and Ugandans are enjoying themselves, thank God. But most of the times we comment on these things after they've happened. And here we have an opportunity to comment and even give input on this conference before it takes place. And maybe, and not maybe, I'm sure Mr. Bagonza and the people who are here will take advantage of our input on this conference before it happens. One, at least from my point of view and what we have been saying, I really appeal to the organizers of this conference to listen more than they talk. Because for years, when Ugandan officials and policymakers and so forth, when they come to talk to us, they usually talk at us. And I mean that literally, because they get a podium, they put their seats there, and they give a microphone to Honorable so-and-so, Minister so-and-so. and they tell us about the diaspora that we live in, and they tell us what to do. They never listen to us. This time, before the conference, I even remember joking to somebody, and if I come over there and 3 or 4 or 5 government officials speak, I'll just walk out. But we're not idiots, and we really would like to have input. Like the lady from London said, we never left Uganda. I'm here. I've always been here every year. Okay? There may not be in industries that are going to be showcased at the convention where somebody shows, oh, I built this apartment complex, because we've been programmed that those are the only contributions that are valuable. But I guarantee you, they're not. We are ambassadors of Uganda where we are and where we live, and our contributions come in different forms. Different forms. And I've told the story on this very show. I remember one time when the government of Uganda delegation was blocked from accessing an AGOA meeting, and I happened to work in that department or ministry that was hosting the convention. And I worked and then haggled with my colleagues, and I said, these guys traveled so far, please let them in. And they let them in. I don't know if that's the same as me building a building in Kampala. I don't know. I don't know. So those are the things that we should listen to diaspora. And I want to also end by saying we're not a monolithic group. Also, the problems that affect Ugandans affect us, especially since we didn't leave Uganda. So when we have concerns about the heights of these absurd corruption levels, when we have human rights abuses, those things affect us. So don't just talk to us about investments, and because investing is an emotional action. So you cannot talk to me as much as you want to impress me about the parks of Uganda, which I'm very familiar with, about Toro, the beauty of Toro and the weather where I come from. I'm also concerned about why Dr. Besigye is in jail. I'm also concerned about what happens if Mzee is unable to continue tomorrow by an act of God or whatever. I'm also concerned. So, yeah, so in your ambitious program, Mr. Bagonza and colleagues, in your ambitious program of trying to impress upon us, do not ignore the fact that we are Ugandans, and the livelihoods and the life that affects our fellow Ugandans here affect us too, because these are emotional, it's an emotional journey that we're on. So I will not be happy, I will not be so impressed in building in Kampala if my sister or cousin is in jail. I will not. So we are Ugandans, yes, again, and I'm so happy to hear Mr. Bagonza recognize that we are the ambassadors of Uganda, because where we are in Washington, D.C., the embassy of Uganda has a staff of 9 people. 9 people in a country of 350 million. That's not even a drop in the bucket. So really, the Americans will first interact with me and my kids before they ever interact with the Ugandan ambassador or any official from the embassy, okay? In American schools, those of you who are familiar, they have school days, they have cultural days, where my kids would go to school with Ugandan flags and to showcase their traditions. Those are your ambassadors. Okay, so recognize that way, but also recognize that it's not about impressing us with investing in Uganda, especially since investing is an emotional activity. Try to look at us, yes. And by the way, we're very, very unique. We're not Ugandans per se, and we're not Americans or Londoners or whatever per se. In other words, we are hybrid. So we have unique values that we have adapted. Some of them are Ugandan, and some of them are from the places where we actually reside now. So incorporate that in this conference, incorporate that. It's not all about trying to show us this, and again, like I started off by saying, please listen more than you talk at this convention. And I'm appealing to this, Mr. Bagonza, and I'm here. Whether I'm able to attend in person or online, I will participate. But I swear to you, if I look, it will be a waste of your time if you line up cabinet ministers and this department officials to come and talk at us. like you have been for years when you send your emissaries to the US and other places. If you do that, all your efforts is a waste of time. You might as well just cancel the convention and just go home and enjoy Christmas. Listen to us. We have something to input in this place. We do. You cannot tell me that I went to the US and educated myself and I worked for the American government and I've lived there for 30 years, that somehow I have not learned a thing or two to talk to you about and we reach some common understanding. If you really don't believe that, then cancel the conference. If you think the minister of so-and-so is the one going to tell me about the diaspora that I live in, then just cancel the conference. Again, I'm impressed that this is happening at a time when the conference has not happened, and these good people are taking notes and will incorporate some of our comments in the conference. Thank you so much, Lynn.
Absolutely. Thank you, Albert. I'm going to ask Mr. Bagonza if you want to comment now, or if you want to listen to a couple of questions or comments, and then you respond.
Okay, maybe I can say something.
Yeah.
Like I paid.
Mr. Bagonza, maybe I can
Yes,
come in now,
Okay.
if you can allow
Just a
me.
minute. Okay, fine. You can go ahead, Ms.
Is that okay?
Yes, I have muted. It's very fine.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for Lynn, and thank you for arranging this session. And I would like to introduce myself. Again, I'm Engineer Hamida Chibrike Hajat from State House. I'm the Senior Presidential Advisor on ICT and the head of ICT as well in State House. And we are obviously, like my colleague said, Mr. Bagonza, this conference is for the diaspora. And the fact that it's for the diaspora, of course, we've got sessions where we are going to listen to the diaspora for them to understand, but understanding is normally both ways. The conference, of course, will present what they present, and then also the diaspora will have a chance to present what they present and also react to what is being presented, because there always has to be two-way communication. So for the gentleman that's just been on the floor saying, if we are going to talk at them, then they will walk out. No, this is an engagement session where we are talking with each other, because we understand this country very well. You understand where you're coming from very well. And that when we work together, we can develop. Like now, my role is technology. I want to be able to hear those stories. How can we improve? Because technology is in all parts of our lives. It is in our homes, it's in the communication, it is in the banking, there are so many innovations that have happened out there that possibly could benefit our country. We can work together and see how we can improve and grow our ICT sector. Secondly, as diaspora, you have families in Uganda, and these families are mostly dependent on you. You're always having to send out money and to support them for even simple things like Christmas Day meal and Easter Day meal. So one of the things also we are going to be showcasing is what opportunities are here that maybe you necessarily do not have to invest in yourself, but you can invest on behalf of your family members so that your family members, one, get something to do, two, they stop being entirely dependent on you in the diaspora for everything that they have to do. And not all these opportunities take a lot of money, but if you total up what you're sending back home to support and educate your families, extended families, your village mates, maybe you will find an opportunity where you can invest and say, instead of just putting this money, because if you spend the money today, it's gone. How can you make this money work for you and also ease your burden where you are in the US? Lastly, of course, at some point, maybe 30 to 50% of people in the diaspora, when they retire, eventually return home. So knowing that in mind, it could be 10 years, it could be 20 years, it could be whatever time it is from your retirement. When you return home, what is it you're going to expect? What can you do? It's a mental process, and this mental process takes years. And I think the government wants to hear from you, because if you do not start preparing now, then you will never make that move because you can never move into the unknown. Then there are also services that we offer the government, and we found it that a lot of people in the diaspora are suffering because they do not have the right means of access to know what's going back on in terms of getting services, to own land, to own a passport, to own a national ID. As a Ugandan citizen, whether you have taken on the citizenship of another country, you are entitled. It is your right to come back and access all these services, whether you're there or you're not there. So we are bringing some of these services closer to you. And at the same time, we are also setting up a platform where we can engage. 2 days are never going to be enough to engage fully with the diaspora, but we are putting up platforms and means of engagement that can continue even after this conference has ended. So that is, I think, one of the key takeaways is that this is not going to be, what has been happening is a one-time engagement, and then you appear again, the government appears again, maybe at the next convention. What has happened in those 365 days, when you come back on the next convention, you're starting from fresh. But we also know that you guys have skills that we can tap to, and knowledge that we can tap into and bring back and use to develop our country and our service delivery. So we are also looking at that. When you come, please come and help us, because we are not saying we know it all. We don't know it all. But also be prepared to listen to us as we listen to you. Because one of the things, I've lived in the diaspora myself, so I understand this very well. When many diasporans come back home, if your mindset is not yet ready or hasn't, it is very difficult. I have seen so many of my friends come after 1 year, 6 months, they leave. So you really have to be able to adapt your mindset and say, you know, yes, it can never be the same exactly as it is in London or the America, but I can borrow a leaf of some of that can be easily transported to work in Uganda. I'm using the word transported for the lack of a better word, but literally it's like saying, you know, like now in Uganda, we have mobile money. But mobile money, you go to some African countries, mobile money is something that is very scarce. People suffer to send their money back to their people in their countries. But these are ideas that came in from people in the diaspora and says, you know, how can we come up with something that can ease money transfers? Because a lot of Ugandans were sending money. Now it's just a press of a button and your grandmother, your mother, your father is able to receive the money. So we are looking at so many other things. We have agriculture. How can we help our people to market their products? So it's a two-way conversation, and we look forward to having this conversation. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Ms. Hamida, for that. Hajat, I beg your pardon. I want to call upon Miriam. Miriam, you could take over and tell us what you make of this inaugural convention, and based on what we have been through, what the conversations we've had previously. Miriam, could you unmute, please?
Hi, Lynn. Thank you, Ms. Hamid and Mr. Muhammad. It was a pleasure having you. And we've been waiting to have these discussions for a long time. So just seeing some movement really is very assuring. As for us in diaspora, I hope the convention addresses a lot of stuff we really, because the promises are much bigger than the reality. You get promised a lot of stuff, but the real thing is the results are disappointing, especially when it comes to investment. So the investment should have structures. It should have, if you are calling people to invest, I think that there is need for streamlining. For instance, now we are talking to staff from State House, then there is Minister of Foreign Affairs. Then they are going to mushroom all other people, you know, several other institutions, and they all, they promised help, but in actual fact, it's like they will be either looking for self-interests or whatever, but you don't get the real assistance. Mr. Bagonza and team from Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we really appreciate if we can have our embassies empowered instead, because I can trust people from the embassy since I'm interacting with them at close range and we understand how we work. For instance, if I'm to get money from USA where I stay, an ambassador in USA knows how the banks in USA function and they know the terms of the loan. And if I need a guarantee about that investment, that ambassador or someone in the economic department would be the right person to pass on that information or to give me that guarantee. And that will be easily trusted by a bank in USA. So there is need to bring services closer to the people where they are in diaspora. So just saying the diaspora, the world is a big place. And when you say Uganda is in diaspora, we are talking from Sudan to China to Singapore to wherever. So as we organize this convention, I hope we have those and so many discussions like that, and bringing services closer to the people. If you see there is a potential, and in this world of internet, you don't have to be physically there, but at least put some reference points where people can get information so fast, so quick, and get things moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam, for that. I want to encourage you to send your questions or comments in the chat room. Use the chat room for now. Give us your questions or comments. And we're glad to have all of you, those of you who just joined us. You're welcome to the Uganda-Diaspora Show here on Civic Space TV. We are live on YouTube. We are live on X, formerly Twitter. And we will be chatting a way forward as we prepare for the Uganda-Diaspora Show. Rather for the Uganda-Diaspora Convention. I'm going to ask, call upon Brian Kwesiga, former president of the Uganda North America Association. Brian, you're welcome.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me, Lynn, and Miriam, and everyone else who has organized this conversation. I'm happy to be in Uganda, happy to contribute to this conversation. But I just want to give context, I think, in which the convention is taking place and in which this discussion is taking place. Back in 2003, the African Union adopted the diaspora as the African Union's sixth region. So in addition to the Eastern African, West African, Central Africa, so we have the diaspora now, which is officially recognized as a sixth region by the African Union. In addition to that, in the Sanderton Declaration of 2012 in Southern Africa, the African Union created a roadmap in which the different member states can integrate the diaspora into their national development plans. So what is happening in Uganda now, this inaugural Diaspora Convention, is not unique to Uganda, but it is happening in other African countries as well. Kenya on December 7th just had its Diaspora Day, and several other African countries, Nigeria, Senegal, are in different stages of engaging the diaspora. So many of these changes are synchronized with other African countries. It's just Uganda has been a little slow to adapt some of these, but there's it's all geared towards making sure that what the African Union set out to do, to recognize the diaspora as its sixth region, is in concert with what the other countries are doing. So in addition to having a day where what Uganda is calling a diaspora convention, what Kenya calls a diaspora day, you also have the issue of they want to encourage people in the diaspora to be able to participate in elections. So you have the issue of diaspora voting. In addition to that, you have the issue of remittances. So you have a discussion, so okay, how do we move these remittances from just being from Miriam sending money to her relatives back at home to actually investing? Because when you look at the statistics in 2023, Africa as a whole received $90 billion in remittances. That's more than Africa receives in foreign aid. It's more than Africa receives in foreign direct investment. And this is happening in an environment where it is unstructured. Just individuals sending money to their home countries, individuals investing. So the question is, what would happen if we actually became organized as a diaspora? How much more could we achieve if we are already achieving whatever we are achieving in our disorganized way? So the issue of diaspora engagement, the issue of, okay, let's have this conversation, let's have a convention, let's have diaspora voting, let's have discussions on migrant labor. Because if you see part of the theme, I think for this convention, it is mobilizing Uganda's diaspora for socio-economic development. So, and even when you read Uganda's national development plan, which is put out by the National Planning Authority, it spells out a role for the diaspora, only that it has remained as a plan. It has not been implemented. So I think this convention is a useful path in trying to have that conversation. And like some of the issues that have been talked about, the issue of dual citizenship, the issue of national IDs, the issue of registering businesses, the issue of people in the diaspora being able to get mortgages, open up bank accounts. If the government can make this process much more friendly, and I think the Ghana government has done a good job in terms of at least some services. Years back, we didn't have national IDs, so people in the diaspora had to move to Uganda, apply, fly out again, and then fly back and maybe check upon the national ID, and then pick up the national ID. But now they can complete that whole process while abroad, and we applaud that effort. So the question is, how do we now apply that same kind of thinking, that same method to other areas, to being able to maybe open up a bank account, buy a piece of land, get a mortgage? How do we get most of these services online? And I know the Ministry of Lands opened up a portal now where people can check their land titles online. And obviously, most people who benefit from such services, e-services, is people in the diaspora. So I look forward to participating in this conversation. I look forward to having a discussion with members of government and fellow diasporans, and see how we can continue to contribute to Uganda's development as a diaspora. The diaspora sends $1.4 billion per year in foreign foreign exchange. It is the same amount, 1.4, that we get from coffee. It is the same. It's more than the 1.1 we get from tourism. And part of what I wrote earlier in the year was, okay, you at the time you had Uganda Coffee Development Authority, a fully dedicated authority catering for coffee, and you had Uganda Tourism Board, a full dedicated agency catering for tourism, but we don't have a similar, same autonomous, fully dedicated agency advocating for the diaspora. And part of what the African Union is pushing for is part of what we are pushing for the national development, rather the national diaspora policy is for things like that. Like Miriam hinted at, what you have now is you have a diaspora desk at Parliament, you have a diaspora desk at the Ministry of Lands, you have a diaspora department in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, then you have the diaspora unit at State House. So what we want is a more unified, synchronized way of what you may call a one-stop center for the diaspora. You know, just like if you have an investor and they want to invest in Uganda, you send them to Uganda Investment Authority. So we also need a one-stop center for all issues that we know affected the diaspora, whether it's issues of mortgages or issues with land or whatever. Someone who can really, we know that this person is looking out for the diaspora, instead of having to be sent to Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and then you are sent back to State House, and then you are sent back to Parliament. So having one-stop center. There's a lot more I can say, but I'll pause for now. But again, I think if you look at the agenda and part of what I wrote about in there, having a national diaspora policy, and what does that entail? It entails a one-stop center for the diaspora. It entails some kind of representation within government, either cabinet in terms of like a Minister of State for diaspora affairs, or diaspora representation in Parliament, the right to vote for the diaspora, that kind of stuff. That would align us with other African countries and what they're doing. For example, Senegal amended their constitution in 2017, and they allowed, I think, was it 15 members of parliament to serve in the Senegalese parliament. So programs like that, where we are not just looking at the diasporans as just an ATM machine where they just send money, but we want to involve them in the national development policy, in the process of transforming this country, so that their citizens are not just people who are sending us money. They are partners in this journey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian, for that. Indeed, to have that conversation, and I hope we don't miss it out, or we don't miss out on it when we get to the convention. Allow me to call upon Dr. John. Dr. John Bavuda, please. Unmute and speak to us. Dr. John, did you step out?
Hi, sorry guys, I was trying to log back on. Let me try and get my camera situated here. Hi, I'm so happy to be here, and thank you for organizing this. This is something that we greatly need. I won't take long talking about like diaspora issues, but my only concern I have is the communication. We are lacking communication. This event is very important to not only the diaspora, but us getting to know about the conference just a week to, how people plan to travel. You get to know like a week into that very month that you're supposed to travel, makes things difficult. So I don't know why they have like secrets. We would love, not even if they don't share the details of what the program is all about, but tell us in advance that maybe in 3 months, or we are going to have this conference specifically for the diaspora. Because trust me, there is someone who would have joined purposely because of this convention, who would have planned to come because of this convention. Even other investors, not only necessarily the Ugandans, maybe would have loved to come and join. But us not getting the communication in time, like me, I'm going to attend, but I did not come purposely for this. So we need to change our ways of communication. And I believe so many people know that without effective communication, there is nowhere we are going to get. So that's something I would love them to really try hard. And we have so many ways of communication. Try so hard to make sure that the information is getting to people so that people can stop receiving wrong information from other sources. That's the only thing. Otherwise, I love what everyone has said, and I'm really grateful that this has been planned. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doctor. Mr. Bagonza, this is the time you respond to some of the issues raised, and then we'll come to everyone else. But you make use of the chat room, and let us have your question or comment there. Mr. Bagonza.
Yeah, thank you, Lynn, and all members for that beautiful presentations. I know I got lost a bit from, I don't know whether my colleague, Madam Amida, talked about a number of projects we are doing, because it is in line with what all members have submitted, is as an office, as a diaspora department in status to address challenges of the diaspora. So as I said earlier, Uganda value now
Mr. Bagonza, I think the network is really bad, but in the meantime, Haja Hamida, could you come in? I'm sorry, Mr. Bagonza, we can't hear you.
Yes, I can come in, and thank you for your submissions. You're all raising very important points that, like I said, I'm a diaspora myself that came back home. So I appreciate all that you're saying. And us being here, we are trying to see that we can do things to the expectations of the people in the diaspora. And one of the things we are doing is how do we set up effective communication channels? That's number one. Number two, someone mentioned about the different diaspora desks. These have come up, these different diaspora desks have come up. And the reason we had one in State House was because we felt there was, or His Excellency the President felt there was a gap between the diaspora and the people and their home country. So what we are doing as the diaspora desk in State House is ensuring that all the different diaspora desks in the different ministries or agencies work together so that we have one voice. And through that, we are also going to be setting up communication channels through which we will be able to effectively communicate both ways, not just one way, where we will also be able to advise diaspora on the available services and how to access them without having to pay money for free services or being overcharged even for those services that are paid for. Or even if you have a problem, you will be able to communicate. If you have an investor and you want to bring an investment or yourself or someone else, we will have all these channels open that will ease your ability to communicate back to government or to be able to do work or to do investment or to access services. So I think that's one of the main points that we are working on right now. So yes, we agree that there's been a lot of miscommunication. We agree that sometimes information has been sent. In fact, most times information has been sent late, but these are things that going forward, we want to ensure that do not happen. So we request that you join us, whether you are here physically. I believe Ministry of Foreign Affairs will be organizing an online link where you will be able to submit your questions or submissions for whatever you want to say. Thank you. I think Mr. Bagonza is back online. Maybe you wants to add.
Yeah, maybe in addition, Aja, thank you very much for that wonderful comment. But like I was saying, the government of Uganda and the people of Uganda now value diaspora in a very serious way. That's why government is putting up a lot of initiatives to deal with the diaspora. And this diaspora convention is one of those, because they know these people are contributing the 4.7 trillion. This is a very big amount in the economy of Uganda. And we know if we handle the diaspora very well, remittances will increase to $10 million, to $20 million, to $30 million. And we are able to deal with the infrastructure development of the country. So there is no one who is not taking diaspora seriously. Uganda is for all of us, and everyone should enjoy, even wherever you are. Going to the diaspora does not mean you are no longer Ugandan. For me, I usually tell my colleagues that I know diaspora is the most civilized group because they live in the countries where civilization began. So, and we are ready to get diaspora to come back, teach us, exchange information on how things are done wherever they are. Mr. Brian talked about the diaspora election. Many of these ideas are very good, and we are also, as your ambassadors here, your mouth speaks, because for us we talk for you. We are also pushing these ideas seriously, about the election, but some of these requires a number of engagement, constitutional amendment, and recently we met with the chairman Electoral Commission and Minister of Justice, and we discussed about this. But the issue they are asking is how many are they? Where are they? How are they going to vote? So government is coming up to put a number of issues in place so that we are able to be included on that. But the biggest challenge is the data management, because we know maybe by rumors it is around 1 million people in diaspora, but we do not have that actual information. That's why we have launched the data management system that is about registering members so that we know who and is where, and that will also help to form constituencies, because you know how the voting is here. People have to vote either at their respective LOCs or parish level, sub-county, like that. So Electoral Commission has to work out those processes. But first knowing how many you are you. So when you come here, you come back for this, definitely our system will be at Munyonyo there for registration. But Madam Amida is also working about the portal so that people can even register even when they don't come back to Uganda. That will give us now a starting point on how to negotiate with the Electoral Commission. So we are running out of time. During the convention, the issue of diaspora will have a wide discussion, which is lagging behind on the diaspora policy. Uganda, I think, and Somalia, but Somalia also moving now fast. I think they are now ahead of us to have their policy. Developed a policy document which is ready for discussion, and we are working out a program about the consultative meetings for stakeholders. So this will inform you when and which region is to visit, because we definitely want to interact with you. In diaspora, and in the networks for people to read and understand and make their comments. So we had projected that at least by June, this policy will be already in place, because the East African community is also, but Uganda needed to give its input. So, and this will also bring in a number, it will address a number of issues, how to invest, the one-stop center, all those many challenges, the economy, they will be addressed in the policy. Mr. Brian also talked about the one-stop center and rationalization. Definitely, the government is rationalizing its agencies. That's why you see they no longer don't want to create many agencies, because at the end of the day, they overlap and they take a lot of resources on our economy in terms of administration and transport. So that's why you see the president is creating these smaller units, because these are not too expensive to manage. But so long as the communication is effective, we don't mind, even when we don't have that very big agencies. So our ideas can still get to government and they can still be addressed through this arrangement. So, but if there is a need, we can still talk about it and discuss whether we need an authority or a commission, whatever, to handle or deal with the diaspora issues. Ajat talked about the effective communication, where we are managing that. We are procuring the information management system, so that will help us to exchange information and give feedback. So hopefully, if the year begins well, we shall also have this very soon. Putting also establishing an office or unit is not something simple, which you are going to do one day. But at least today, I'm happy that we are coordinating very well with the relevant agencies and ministries in terms of responding to our concerns. And I'm saying from diaspora, it is good, but we are pushing here government and the many stakeholders who are involved to understand the role of diaspora in social economic transformation of the country. Because I'm aware there is no country which has developed without its diaspora. You have seen how the Chinese are very well organized, and for them they have a fund, which we are also now agitating here, so that they have we have a diaspora fund which can be invested in those countries where you are, and people become for economic gains. Instead, people of being employed working for other people and they earn peanut. We want to engage our population to get involved into the economic development back home. Because once you get more money there, they definitely remit the money back in Uganda. So there is no worry. Even when we put that fund, money eventually will come back to the country. So we are looking at a number of initiatives to help and deal with the diaspora. And I know it is just a matter of time. Engagement, communication, exchanges will be made, because we can't move on any policy or whatever matter without consulting you. So that's why the information management system will help us to address the communication challenges. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bagonza, for that detail. Hamida, you want to come in? Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Lynn. I thank my colleague for submitting. There's one thing that I wanted to bring up, which always comes up with the diaspora. How can the diaspora vote? The diaspora will only be able to vote when we are able to identify who you are and where you are. So one of the things, like my colleague said, Mr. Bagonza, is we have set up this diaspora data management system, and through which we're encouraging people in the diaspora to be able to, when we set it up, be able, when you come, we will be registering you physically. Or then when we will set up the app, we also want you to encourage, wherever you are, please register. It will also facilitate us to be able to identify you, because once we can't identify you, you will not, the diaspora will never be able to vote. The reason the American diaspora votes for wherever they are is because they have the systems where they are able to be identified and verified that if it's Hamida, this is Hamida, and Hamida is located in the US. So if Hamida's vote comes in from the Philippines, then it is not a valid vote. So that's one of the things we are going to encourage you as people that are joining our hands in trying to get the diaspora involved back home. So I just wanted to add that.
And may I quickly respond to Mr. Miriam? Please.
Sorry. Let's just
Can
allow.
Can I quickly add on something there very quickly?
I wanted to first get Gordon Morandia from the United Arab Emirates to say something, then we can react to what has been raised. If you have a question, I encourage you to also raise your hand. It is easier that way for me to follow up. So, Gordon, kindly, if you could unmute and speak to us about what your views are from the United Arab Emirates. Gordon, are you there? If you're not, you can proceed. Okay. I think he's not listening to us for some reason. Albert, what do you want to say if I get to Joy and
Yes,
Danny?
yes, Lynn. So I wanted to, and thank you so much for this. This is really enlightening, and I thank Brian for his submission, because I started off by, based on our past experiences with these interactions, I may have given an impression to the panelists that this was going to be a tough day, but it's not. And we do coordinate. We know each other. Brian is like the diaspora leader. I'm one of the people who worked with him, and I still work with him. We're friends. So this is not as disjointed as you guys think. But I wanted to respond to the last comment of saying that the diaspora will not vote unless they know where we are. And the same principles that we're listening to also talked about effective communication. So on to that, I want to add on efficient communication, because it's not entirely true that you good folks do not know who we are and where we are. You have several mechanisms to identify us, including the services that we actually have been praising you for. Services like national IDs, services like dual citizenship. You have all this information. So it's not necessarily true that the Ugandan government does not know where these people or where we are. You know where I am. Just this weekend, I did, I'm one of those laggards, so I did I got my certificate from Miriam. Not NERA, the immigration. And kudos to the work they're doing. It's not everything complaining and blasting you guys. As a matter of fact, there was they were very professional. The young lady, Badiri is the name I can remember, worked very, very professionally. And within a very short of time, I was in and out of there. As a matter of fact, the longest time I took was when they asked me to go pay for a certified copy. So I had to leave the premises, go to the bank, and then come back. That actually was the longest time. And that can be quickly rectified, because at the application level, you could ask people if they want a certified copy, and then they can pay. So you don't have to go through all that. Yeah. But so what I was saying is we can have also, in addition to effective communication, let's also have efficient communication. The right to vote is not one that is based on us identifying ourselves where and who we are as Ugandans. It's not dependent on that. So let's not put hurdles in here. And then the last part I want to add on is the fact of Mr. Bagonza responding to this office in the president's office. Yes, but for some of us, how we understand these institutions, and maybe they work differently in Uganda, you can enlighten us. The president's office is a political office. Yes, the NRM is the political party in power. But what I think what Brian is talking about and what we're hinting at least when we have our discussions, we're talking about a constitutional office, whether it's a ministry, whether it's a commission, something that has the power of the people, not the power of the personality. So I think, and Brian can correct me, that's what we are thinking of. That's what we're talking of. Something that has a parliamentary blessing. And I think we've done this before, because there's $100,000 that the Ugandan government gives to us, and that the president put in the national budget. So it's not dependent on the day when he's happy or unhappy with us. It's dependent on the national budget. So we want something similar to that.
Maybe I can respond to that straight away, even when the speaker is still going on, because already.
Go ahead, I'm finished. That was it. Thank you.
Already, Ministry of Foreign Affairs is in charge of all international and diaspora affairs, and that one is a constitutional ministry. And you are very much aware that Ministry of Foreign Affairs has a department, the whole Department of Diaspora Affairs, which is headed by Ambassador Muhindo and the full-fledged staff. So why the president created this unit under State House was because there have been the communication we are talking about, because many times, as I mentioned, the president has traveled and many diasporas are complaining. So the president he said, I have nobody in my office whom I can direct to deal with the agencies over these challenges, and they are solved. That's why he created my office. But constitutionally, Ministry of Foreign Affairs is in charge of international and diaspora affairs, and they have a whole department in charge of diaspora. So the good thing, right now we have put a coordinating center where every day, time to time, we are discussing with Ministry of Foreign Affairs on diaspora management. At the same time, I think we should also appreciate about the different desks in different departments, because these have eased and have made work effective. Like you have mentioned, if you go to internal affairs, there is a diaspora desk. If someone calls, he has an urgent problem, someone called me the other day, he was getting to the airport in Washington, and the kid had an expired passport. They were to stop that kid to get to the plane. Immediately, I called our embassy to provide the emergency travel document for that kid. So this is very effective now. Even lands, when we have an issue, so before, if there is an issue in the land management, I have to look for permanent secretary. Sometimes they are too busy or look for minister. But now there is a desk. When we get issue on land, I just call direct that desk in Ministry of Land to sort out the problem, even before those big people come back to office. So really, these desks have eased work, diaspora work, and many of our diaspora people are happy because there is that effectiveness of when they are giving back the service. So except if you say that we need a commission which is like out of the ministry or an authority, that one I said definitely there is a room to discuss. If that's what we need, this is a democratic government, and government moves whatever people want. So once people decide that there is this, we shall champion and we get to it. So the issue of the election, it is very critical because our constitution, everyone is, of course, has a right to vote, but voting in Uganda mainly is what is talked about in our constitution. And two, you find that many Ugandan, okay, of course, government was lenient to allow everyone to get a national ID because people would lose their maybe land titles or properties in Uganda. Even when you did not fulfill the process of dual citizenship, many people own ID when they have not fulfilled the process of dual citizenship. So you find that ID still, it is not in line with the given to you in a proper policy. So that's why you may find some people have national IDs, but still they cannot vote here because they don't even have a dual citizenship. Or even when they have a dual citizenship, that needed to be changed because you can't participate in the presidency of the country. You see, so really, the data management issue is very important to know how many are you, where you are, so that government can plan. Because the Electoral Commission was telling us, in Uganda, people vote at almost LC level. So where are those diaspora going to vote? So that should be changed in a constitution that diaspora can vote at their respective embassy where we are accredited of. So these are issues to discuss. And once they open up this discussion, definitely they will be consulting wherever. And we are aware Ministry of Internal Affairs has been traveling around also to consult. I know they were in Canada, they were almost many of those places in many regions. So they were also consulting about migration law, which they are also concluding. So there is really a very big goodwill, and we just need to be, all of us, to be supportive and have one voice, which we will achieve what we need as diaspora. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have people whose hands are up, and I'd love to hear from them. I'm going to start with Daniel. Joy, I'll get back to you on that. Daniel first, then Joy, and then Brenda.
Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, members, once again, wherever you are. My name is Daniel Kancheho, and I would like to ask Mr. Bagonza on Dr. Joan had talked about the issue of effective communication. You have not given us a solution on how you're going to do that, because now you have talked about the issue of having these diaspora people registering, and you have their information, those ones who will attend the conference. But then my question is, for those who will not attend, for those who will not come, for those who are not even aware, how are you going to get them? That is my question. Just on the issue of effective communication, how are you going to get them? That is the question. How? Because right now we even still have the issue of effective communication. If you have failed, I had Joy talking about that people are not aware of this conference. They are not most of them actually are aware. So how are you going to get this? Kind of answer that. Then another thing. I have a question on also, why don't we have the representative of diaspora people in each and every country? Because I think we have. Hello.
Mr. Bagonza, I think let's take a couple of questions that you can respond to, not one by one.
Can I finish?
Yes, go ahead then.
Then I'm asking, why don't we have the representatives? Why don't we have leaders? You see, the main problem here, the reason as to why government is forming different units, they have failed to know the problem. I think if we have leaders, let's say the representative in each and every country, then they will be able to reach out those people who are not reachable. Why don't we get leaders? If, for example, we have leaders in UK, we have leaders in South Africa, why are we forming different units? Even when they have, I see, I've been hearing Mr. Bagonza talking about they formed his unit and it's doing something. Nothing has done, nothing has changed. That is the truth. Nothing has changed completely. It has even failed. Even the Ministry of Foreign Affairs has even failed. I don't see any difference. Why don't you get leaders where you guys you can reach out and maybe contact them to get other Ugandans that are there stuck? Thank you so much.
All right, thank you, Daniel. Joy?
Thank you very much, Lynn. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Mr. Bagonza and Hamida, for that information you have shared. And again, talking about effective communication, I think that is very important that Albert was saying. And it's good that we are having this dialogue. Now, I also agree with what my friend, the one has just gone, Daniel, he talked about why don't we have somebody where we are? Like Albert said earlier, that he's more likely to talk to those people in the community before they even go to the embassy. And now we're talking about even the local embassy, but now we're talking about a department in Uganda, all the way in Uganda. And let me tell you, as much as we're all Ugandans, I think it was Mr. Bagonza who said, we see things differently, maybe because of our view and the way we do things in our respective countries where we are living now. And it's good to know that Miss Hamida is actually, has been in the diaspora before. She understands. It's very difficult to reach out to people. Lucky for that person maybe who got stuck with a child at the airport, had maybe Mr. Bagonza's number. It's about who you know. And I'm telling you, if we can have like a line, that's attached to our High Commission, for example, at Uganda House in London, it is much quicker than us looking for Mr. Bagonza's number. And I'll tell you, when I applied for my dual citizenship, I had to come to Uganda to get my certificate. You see, but now, of course, you're moving. I think Albert said, we need to give them credit where they're doing things, really. At the moment, things are better. But they can even get better than that. We don't need to know somebody's number. Let's have a link to say, if you're stuck, this is a line, you trigger this, and even if you pay money, you will get the service done. But we don't have that. We still have to call people. And that is not really very helpful when it comes to getting things done. somebody mentioned about voting. And I think it was Miss Hamida who said maybe we need to register, they need to know who are these people, are they real? And Albert said, we are real and they know about us. And I want to tell you what people feel in London. We are all taught to register with our High Commission. It's very important. I believe in that as an immigration lawyer. But Ugandans in London don't feel safe to share their details with Uganda House. They think they're going to be used for persecution. They think, and I think it was Albert who said, you know, the situation at home impacts all these other things about development and, you know, investments. When people don't feel safe, even if you talk about investment, they are not going to really think investment. So our Ugandans in London need to be reassured. When we launched our UK Ugandan Lawyers Association last Saturday, we had the High Commissioner as our chief guest. And we were inviting our Ugandan lawyers and a few other community leaders. And we had to tell them that you're not going to be deported when you go to the event. That is our Uganda House. It is for all of us. So we are trying to tell our Ugandans in London that this is our house. We can go there whether you support the government or not. We can talk about things that affect us and all that. But they need to hear more of these things from our Uganda House. And if we had a department, they are running meetings and Ugandans are attending, they will get. I didn't know about this conference until when Miriam sent me an invitation. I didn't know it was happening. And I think it was Daniel who said, we don't know what is going on. But if there is a leader at every house, as in like every High Commission embassy, then we get to know. But otherwise we are left out completely. About voting again. We can copy what our friends are doing. We don't need to, you know, to introduce something very unique just for Uganda. Let's look at what other countries are doing. And we can use that, but by complicating things by saying, oh, what about the local authority, not local authority, what they call them, the LOC voting and all that. Voting is a big deal. And again, it takes us down to citizenship because, of course, we have been talking about citizenship before we didn't even have dual citizenship. But thank God now we have dual citizenship. So I believe in these conversations that when we talk about these things, we talk about how these things are impacting us, we get things done. And just again, moving on, Mr. Bagonza, what you said about, you know, maybe some people have IDs, but actually they are not allowed to vote. Well, they wouldn't be allowed, maybe even, you know, to do certain things as sin because they have lost their citizenship automatically when they became British. Now, at the moment, you can't get a national ID if you don't have a dual citizenship certificate. And I think it's good to make it clear to people that if you've acquired another citizenship, you've automatically lost your Ugandan citizenship. We are trying to request Mr. Bagonza, if you can pass this on. It shouldn't be like that. Because let me tell you, if you don't have citizenship, you can't thrive in these countries. You can't buy property. You can't get scholarships. So we are doing this so that we can have access to big money to invest home. And we're talking about developing home. So please, Mr. Bagonza, tell them we shouldn't lose citizenship automatically. Let's have this dual citizenship automatically when we take on British, you know, citizenship. So for me, that's what I'm requesting. And of course, I know we pay $400, you know, to get dual citizenship certificates, but we shouldn't lose it automatically because we should look at why we acquire new citizenship. It's not because we are not proud of our citizenship, but because we want to access all these services. And when we get them, we take them back home. I'll stop there at this point, Lynn.
Right. Thank you very much, Joy. Brenda, I'm sorry, Mr. Bagonza, let's take this one more.
Can I respond on that? Remember, my network is on and off, and I'm traveling, you know. I'm traveling. Right. Sometimes I'm missing. So for that, okay. I can respond on that first. So all right, go ahead. I wanted to respond on the other gentleman. I didn't pick his name. I think he overjudged it. That even the diaspora unit in the State House has done nothing. As I said, that the unit was formed late last year, and we are now coming up with a master plan on what we need for diaspora. And maybe, I don't know whether I came late, because Ajata Amida talked about the initiative we are doing and the issue of effective communication we are procuring. Actually, we are almost in the final stages of procuring the information engagement and feedback mechanism. So this is going to be an interactive, people will be calling in from wherever they are. We shall dispute those links and numbers so that people can call in, give us information, and then we respond. We are going to have, it is going to be a 24-hour manned call center. It will be both data and direct calls. So we can be able, and we have different links with different ministries to respond on each points which has been raised. So this will also help us to effectively communicate with our embassy, because many people have been raising that when they call our embassies, they don't pick. That's why the president said, you procure the call center, so that when you call the embassy is not picking, then we can get to that call. In Uganda, we can pick and then maybe respond very fast, because you find sometime in the US, they are sleeping. Uganda, we are awake. London, it is morning, like that. So because of the different time zone, we shall be able to address many of those challenges of communication. Yesterday, we had a meeting with some developers, with Ajatamida. We are discussing to have an app, so they are coming up with a concept so that app will be distributed to everyone, and it has all the information we need, and it will be linked with whatever is involved for diaspora. So communication is going to be sorted out. The other issue was of how many people did not receive this information about the conference. But Ministry of Foreign Affairs wrote to all embassies where we are accredited and informed them about the convention, and they requested them to inform all embassies also communicated for associationists. But I know many countries also do not have associationists. That's why these days, wherever we visit, we are encouraging Ugandan to form at least one group. Recently, celebrating for the second.
Mr. Bagonza, your network is really bad.
Yeah, in existence. So they had since. I was saying recently we're in South Africa and we're celebrating the second convention of Kyomugasho, Ugandan who live in Southern Africa. And Southern Africa has a number, I think around 6 countries, including Lesotho, Zimbabwe, Swaziland, Namibia, and so on. So at least now, when you want to distribute information in South Africa, it is now easy, because that course is comprised of all chapter heads of different chapters. All leaders was communicated for those in the official organization for everyone in the US. So embassies communicate through those engagements. Yes, there is a big problem in the U association. From UK, many of them are associated into political parties. Of course, which is not our interest now to engage as a unit into politics. For us, we are partisan, we are out of politics, and we are trying to make sure we work in line with the government policies and procedures. So there is also a big problem in diaspora, which really we need to address. Even us, we are not organized. Telling people to form a group
Mr. Bagonza, your network.
You may find many things comes in tribal, political, what. But for political parties, network. We are moving on well. I know as time goes on, things will improve, and definitely we need a lot of your support so that we can able to help our colleagues in the diaspora who need services. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Bagonza. Brenda, your hand has been up the longest. Please go ahead.
Thank you, Lynn, and thank you everyone that's engaging in this conversation. Like you said, Lynn, this has been long overdue, and for the longest time we've been kind of wondering how we're going to bridge the disconnect between the diaspora and the basically the people at home or the government, and as far as engaging the diaspora in the national development of the country. I really appreciate everybody that's on here and their contributions.
Brenda, could you kindly introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Brenda Kalisima Johnson. I live in the United States, in Washington, D.C. area. I worked with the Uganda Embassy as a consular assistant for about 12 years. I left in about end of 2022. I am now a member of the diaspora here. And that's why I take this very personal, because I was in the embassy and I attended to the diaspora needs as a consular assistant. And I sat on the phone every day. Albert and Brian can attest that. We sat on the phone every day, taking calls one after another. You don't even have time to take a break because the demand is enormous. Embassies are understaffed. There are not enough people to take everyone's call, even when people try to reach out to the embassies, they're not able to get through all the time that they might want to. So that goes to the point of communication and how information is disseminated through embassies to the diaspora. So it's not just that the embassies are not doing what they're supposed to do or they're not doing their job, but the embassies are, well, I can speak to the embassy of Washington, D.C. It is understaffed. There are 50 states, which each state is approximately as big as Uganda, one country. So these are 50 states being served by one embassy. And calls are coming in at a rate that no human can even begin to think that they can manage. So the issue of communication is very, very, very critical. It needs to be addressed immediately for us to be able to move forward with whatever we're trying to do and achieve effectively. Otherwise, it's still gonna get in the way. Now, like this, for this information, I personally I'm intentional when I'm looking for information regarding what is happening in Uganda in connection with the diaspora. I look for information, but there are so many people who do not even know that this information is there. So we really need to address that immediately. But to Mr. Bagonza's point, the office of the president stepped in to address this issue because it has been an issue for the longest time, and I think he's taking the positive steps in the right direction. He is addressing the issue head on, and I'm thinking it's work in progress. It's not gonna happen overnight, but I'm personally positive that we are heading in the right direction as far as the communication issue is concerned, because everything is going to start there. Then secondly, I want to talk about the mindset and perception of the people in the diaspora about the Uganda government. Every time Uganda government comes up with something positive, of course, there are people for political reasons or whatever other reasons who push back. The pushback is not because they don't want the service. It's because of what has been happening, or what is happening, or what people perceive as the government not having good intentions or having ulterior motives when they're trying to offer these services. But I think we also in the diaspora have to play our part in sensitizing our communities about these services that the government is offering that are beneficial to us and our families back home. I personally would, whenever I talk to people on the phone when I was at the embassy, I would make it a point to let people know that the embassy is for all Ugandans. It has nothing to do with NRM or NRM being the political party in power in the president's office. It doesn't mean that you can't get a national ID just because you're in opposition. And it is our individual response. We should take individual responsibility to sensitize our friends, families, and colleagues in the diaspora to let them know, hey, this is good for you. If you have family in Uganda, you're going to need this service, you're going to need that, you're going to need this and that to be able to progress, because we spend a lot of money taking care of our families in Uganda. And if we can coordinate with the government services to be able to alleviate the burden that we face, and come up with that, if the government is coming up with policies and systems where it's going to make it easier for us to transact business between here and Uganda and take care of our families and make sure that our families are doing well, and even to create like maybe better retirement, better retirement environment for us when we finally get back home. I think we need to kind of meet halfway and be rational about how we make decisions as to how we're going to engage in these activities as we move forward. And I guess for the most part, most of my colleagues have spoken on all the other issues. I will not take so much time, but I just wanted to emphasize the fact that it's a two-way communication. It's a two-way collaboration. We all have to look into ourselves, put our emotions aside, put our parties aside, and look at what it is that benefits us and the welfare of us and our people at home as we prepare for our retirement, and maybe when we move back, or even when you just go back home and you just want to enjoy, just have a good time, and you want a service at Ministry of Internal Affairs, or you want to go to Ministry of Lands for something. These are all services that are going to be implemented by the government, by policies that are set in place by the current government, which you may be opposed to, but these are services that you need and they're going to help you. So we need to meet halfway. We need to be able to put our differences aside, come to the table and discuss these with open minds and with intentions. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Brenda. Allow me read a couple of comments in the chat room. If you have a question or comment, please raise your hand. Daniel here wanted to ask something earlier. I think you got the chance to ask that. So there's a comment here, still from Daniel. He's saying the most effective approach to addressing diaspora concerns is to empower them to take ownership of the conversation. This can be achieved by allowing them to moderate discussions and select their own representatives to address the issues at hand. Furthermore, having the Ministry of Foreign Affairs attend as listeners rather than presenters can help foster a more constructive and inclusive dialogue. Okay, this is Albert Bakasara. He says, are there coordination mechanisms for all the different government diaspora desks in Uganda, maybe a working group, monthly quarterly meetings, etc. And if there aren't any, I encourage the personalities here to consider establishing such mechanisms. Thank you. Now this is Albert again. He says, again, like I said, let's also have efficient communication. The data you're looking for only needs to be coordinated with us, and maybe a little bit of progression in the past. For example, UNAA in the US is elections every 2 years. Sometimes you have registration numbers close to 15 hours and 1,500, and those people do give their location. Going to Stuart's iPhone, beg your pardon, and the para organization doing the same conflicting activities in the different diaspora-related activities. Yes, proper and centralized communication and access to information is required. Okay. Hamida says, thank you all for giving us the opportunity to engage. I'll be dropping off 5 to attend the meeting. Beg your pardon. Okay, thank you very much. Joy, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, please. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Brenda. You really shared a lot of important information. And, talking about taking calls, the feedback that was also given at the Uganda High Commission in London was that there's nobody manning the calls. So people call and then they stopped calling because they think they are not bothered or they just don't pick up the calls. So again, of course, like what Brenda's shared, you can't have 9 people serving all those many people. I think that is not good service to the Ugandans there. And especially when you want them to be involved in what you're doing, you need to be available. You can't be available when they are not accessible. Now, this is what other countries do. Put services online and make them effective. Because, simple things like making a payment for a passport application is is a nightmare. Because you can't, why would it be so difficult to apply for a Ugandan passport online? Because I don't know whether they have a poor package on the system, online, because they should make it user-friendly so that somebody can really go on and make the application without so many hurdles. When you get to that point where you're making the payment, because I'm told all money has to be paid in Uganda online, but it's received in Uganda directly. So apparently, when there is no electricity in Uganda, you will not be able to pay. That's what I've been told, because people get stuck online. They can't finish the application, and then they can't save the application. So if you don't have enough manpower to pick up the calls, please put effective service online. You don't need to be talking to people all the time regarding everything. Put services online and make sure that service is user-friendly. And then you will not have all this bad, negative feedback that we keep getting about how our high commissioners or how our embassies are serving the community. Now, again, I think Brenda talked about, like us telling people that, look, this is our Uganda House, it's for all of us. I am part of that, I advocate for this, and our Uganda House has really been opened up to the community. You can take there anything. You can request and take your event down there and discuss about stuff. And I also believe in, Ugandans coming together in form of associations to put things together and work together to be part of the system in Uganda. But what I wanted to say was this: Ugandans need to be reassured that information is not going to be leaked, because to be honest with you, apparently there's evidence that shows that information has been leaked from the High Commission, from the embassies, to the wrong people, and then people have got in harm's way as a result. Talking about, things happening, of course, we have a situation of, Dr. Kwesiga at the moment being in Kenya and then finds himself in Uganda without going through the channels. And I'm not just being political, I'm just saying that people need to feel safe when they say they're sharing their details with the Ghana embassy, in their country of residence. They need to feel safe that information is not going to be leaked. And I think they need that kind of assurance. But Ugandans are keen to participate in the development of their country. Now, what about infrastructure? We can talk about doing things at home, but what about the roads? Now, these are things that the government should be responsible for. While we are taking the money home, investing in businesses and stuff, let's have the lighting. Last time I was in Uganda in March, and we went for dinner, and around KPC, there is no light. It is real dark, as in very dark. By 8 o'clock, it's very dark. There is no street light. Now, these are really put off, factors, and just try to do what the government can do. And for us, we shall do the rest. Do the roads, put the lights. Now, what about electricity? You are trying to invest back home. I think it was Mr. Bagonza was saying here earlier that, they want us to go help our families to invest at home instead of sending money all the time. But can you imagine? You send money to do something. The electricity is so temperamental. It is on just once in a while. So let's get the infrastructure in order as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joy. I'm going to run through a few people, and then Mr. Bagonza can conclude because we're running out of time. I want to start with Brian. Mr. Brian Kwesiga, could you kindly, conclusively, as we prepare ourselves to conclude this conversation? Okay, Brian, I think you are engaged for something. Let me hear from Gerald. Who's Gerald? Okay, could you unmute and tell us your name and what you do, and then your comment briefly in 1 minute. Okay, that one is also not unmuting.
Yeah, Lynn, did you? I heard you call out my name, but I didn't hear the question.
I was saying we are concluding this conversation, and I wanted to take your conclusive remarks.
No, I think all the participants I think have very good points. I especially like the last participant in terms of suggesting that let's not make things more complicated for ourselves. Technology has availed us the means to simplify our lives. We don't have to worry about the issue of people not picking up phone calls and all that kind of stuff. Many businesses have outsourced that. They put all the services online. So you don't need to call someone to know how you should apply for a passport or how you should pay. That information should be self-evident when someone logs into a website. The process should be user-friendly enough that they can go through that without needing to interact with a human being. On the issue that I think Daniel and Dr. Bavuga talked about, lack of communication, I think it comes down to what we discussed earlier, the lack of a one-stop center for diaspora issues, meaning that even when information is flowing down, maybe from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, there's not a good mechanism for it to go through down to make sure it reaches the intended audiences. In fairness, though, to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, this was the first convention they are organizing. So if it becomes an annual event, hopefully to have a set date and the communication will be better moving forward. Yes, we did get the information late and some people couldn't make it, or some people had already booked their tickets, but we'll cut them some slack and say since it's the first time, they'll get better. But yeah, the issue of communication is a major one, but I think most of these things can be solved with the mapping exercise that is being carried out. And like Mr. Bagonza said, many other African countries, of course, they have funding from these international organizations, from the IOM, International Organization of Migration, UN, National Development Program, United Nations Development Program, and GIS, the German NGO. So most of African countries have utilized this funding and they have mapped the diasporas. So they know who the diasporas are. So they've been able to move things like allowing diasporas to vote, knowing how many diasporas are in each individual country. So they are able to gauge how to market at them, how to reach out to them, how to engage them. And they have reaped the benefits because Uganda right now, for the diaspora, we contribute 1.4 billion a year, as I've already said. That's just about 3% of our GDP. For other countries like Nigeria gets 19 billion US dollars, and that's about 5% of our GDP. So I think if the Uganda government can get some of its policies right, implement a diaspora policy, implement a one-stop center for diaspora affairs, we'll be able to increase the diaspora's contribution to the GDP. And like Brenda said, most of it, people may be worried by what they hear on the news, politically, what's happening here and there. But I think the more we engage with the diaspora, the more the Uganda government engages with the diaspora, I think most of that mistrust will go down. It's a first step, so we are excited about it. We look forward to participating. and hopefully it will be a good one. And again, thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Miriam, for having us. Thank you to my fellow diasporans and the different representatives represent different government agencies. Thank you for being around.
All right, thank you very much, Brian. Let me hear. Bring me your hand is up. I'm giving you a minute because we need to conclude this conversation.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to quickly point out the fact that we, much as we're advocating for services online, for us to be able to communicate more effectively. We have a community of members that are either elderly or handicapped or just not computer savvy that absolutely need to call in and need to talk to somebody, or somebody just doesn't know how to navigate the online system, or just I have dealt with people who just called to say, oh, I saw this information online, but I wasn't sure it was up to date. And so for that reason, people always have to call in. They want to talk to somebody. And we always joked that now we're becoming therapists. Many times people just need to talk to somebody from home. People in the diaspora are either depressed or they're going through challenges. They just want to talk to somebody who understands them, somebody who talk to them in their language. That is a very much needed service that cannot be ignored. We just have to keep that in mind, that we have that category of people that need that service. I just wanted to point that out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brenda. Mr. Bagonza, we're concluding this conversation. I would like to take your conclusive remarks.
Thank you very much, Madam Lynn. For me, I always say diaspora, there are three principles, or have three principles. Diasporas have the skills because they have studied, many have studied very well. We are aware we have a number of engineers, like for example, in the USA, who are working in Boeing. Those are serious experts in Boeing. We know a number of surgeons. We know diaspora have different skills. So these skills is very useful both in Uganda and wherever they are. The other principle is the market. We are in the countries where there is a big market, because you are aware many of the countries have big population, like US, Europe, like China, like market. Yeah, we go in terms of market development and advertisement and so on. But we have our own diaspora, which can sell Uganda, even without Uganda investing money a lot of money to the diaspora. So they can market our country and talk about it. And then see how do we use this market in terms of our agricultural produces. The last thing is about the money. We know some diasporas, they have made some good money. They can be able to invest both here and in those countries there. And then eventually we get a lot of remittances from them. So for Miriam, I have a very good will, and I'm ready to serve you so that we can change this narrative. And the government, at any cost, they have to listen to us because they are getting a lot from us. Like one colleague mentioned, I think was Brian, I think it was Brian who mentioned about coffee, the money we are earning from coffee. Actually, I think diaspora is more bigger than coffee, than the one we are getting from coffee. But you see, Uganda government is investing a lot in coffee, not investing in diaspora. So that's why now we have to have a voice and we push for our rights. And I know we'll achieve this because our president has a very good will. And he mentioned it to me when he was appointing me. He told me, please, my people are suffering. Make sure you address these challenges, mobilize them in terms of participation in the national development. And that is our line. Thank you very much, members, for listening.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bagonza, for making time
To us. We can have and bring everyone on board. Everyone gets the information. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I welcome you to Uganda, and I will see you in Munyonyo on 18/19 for those who will be here. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Joy in the chat room saying thank you very much, friends, for this wonderful discussion. Thank you, Mr. Bagonza and Hajat Hamida, for the positive approach. We hope this discussion will help to inform the convention of our needs and how best we can be utilized. We are all here because we're proud Ugandans who want to see our country move to a greater level. I couldn't agree more. Miriam, and you are concluding this conversation.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, all the panelists. I want to give special thanks to Mr. Bagonza and team for responding to this invitation on short notice. Thank you so much, and we have had a fruitful discussion. I hope we continue having these conversations so that we can find a way of working together. I also want to thank you, the panelists and all the participants online. I appreciate so much. We appreciate your time. We appreciate your sacrifice to be here. And we are learning from each other, which was great. It was a great discussion, and we hope to continue this. This show was aired live, but we are going to record it and re-air it again so that in case you missed something or you want to share it with a friend, feel free to reach out to me or any of the panelists they will be having a link and they will share it with you, and you can also share with other people. The more people we really reach out to, the more successful would be as diasporians. And as people, like we all noted, every was talking about how we miss out on the communication. I don't want to call it a lack of communication, but we are miscommunicating sometimes, and we are not really in harmony. We don't get like a consensus on how we should do the stuff we are supposed to do. I hope the government officials, you took note of our concerns, and really we can really have a discussion on this and maybe come up with a way forward which can benefit all of us. And thank you so much, Lynn, and everybody. We really appreciate. I can't emphasize that. Thank you, and have a nice weekend. And we see you in Munyonyo. We'll be there.
Absolutely. But just before we go off, I see a comment here in the chat room. Just briefly, let me take a look at it. Gerald Misoke says supporting the diaspora means creating good political and economic environment back home and strong foreign support missions for our people abroad. Apparently, there's no political goodwill. I came late, but would love to contribute the next time. I'm privileged to have been in the financial industry, and I know the greatest contribution the diaspora does to our country in terms of remittances. Thank you very much, Gerald. I think we look forward to hosting you next time. I thank you, everybody who joined, and for the contributions. Mr. Bagonza, we wish you the very best of the event, and we look forward to what you have unpacked for our people in the diaspora. I wish you the very best of the weekend as well, and look out for this conversation for more details on YouTube, on our Civic Space TV, and of course on Twitter as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I see. Bye.